a lot of people who are listening to this may know you from your local basketball days, which were tremendous. And I remember you as well from then. And now you're doing two different things. You are an executive or in management for pharmaceutical sales, correct?
Yep.
And from that experience, your success in sports as a professional athlete, you've kind of parlayed all that into some leadership coaching, some speaking, some leadership development, leadership skills training, and leadership in general is a topic that I love. So it's just a pleasure to have you here.
First of all, I appreciate the time. And it's been a cool ride. If we want to dive right in, and I'll give you kind of a little bit of a background of how I came to, when I ended my pro career, how I kind of jumped into the med device world, and now leaning on the Cetnar consulting piece. So just a quick background, right? When I graduated UAlbany, I ended up going to Europe for just about 6.5 years. I was back and forth. I played in the States as well, the NBDL, USBL, a bunch of pro camps. And so 7 years in, I decided, okay, I can continue this, or is it time to come back home? And is it time to kind of start the next chapter of my life? So I jumped into pharmaceutical sales, and just to fast forward from 2007 till today, I've kind of climbed that ladder, and now I'm a VP of sales for Siemens Medical. And so as I look back on my career, and I kind of look at both careers, right? The athlete and then the corporate Todd. And I tried to figure out, all right, what do all the elite people have in common? And at the time, I didn't think of the word elite, but I just felt like, who was ultra successful in my playing days and why? And then who's ultra successful right now in the corporate world, executive world, and why? And as I started to kind of put the pen to paper, there was three things that stood out. They all had an elite mindset, they had the right communication skills, and they understood their purpose, right? They knew their why in life, what they're trying to get out of their life. And so the word elite, just for me, is I kind of put that together and said, okay, these are the three skills of the elite. And if you want to be ultra successful, you need to master these three skills. And then, of course, once you bucket the three skills, there's a lot of content under each one of them, right? And so we don't have the time to go through all that, but that's kind of the idea of where I came up with Cetnar Consulting.
So there's communications to me. I'm sure we could go in depth there, but the two that really stood out to me, and I think because I you only know your own experience, right? Or your own mind. For me, the mindset side is really, it feels like the keystone. Like if you can set your mindset, then you can figure out how to deliver elite communications, and you can drill into what your purpose is and maybe where you're trying to go. Right. But man, the moments when I feel like I have my mindset dialed in versus the moments when I don't, I'm the same person, but my performance could be exponentially different. So like, where do you start with that idea of mindset?
Yeah, well, the first thing you need to do, right, Ryan, is you got to define it. Everyone has the right mindset when things are going well. But having an elite mindset is the ability to dig in mentally when you don't want to do something, or you're stuck in this vice and it's closing in on you. And it can be anything. It could be you're gaining weight. You just lost a relationship. You lost a loved one. You got fired from your job. That's the part where people don't know what to do. And in order to dig out of that, first of all, you need a strategy. You can't just say, well, I have an elite mindset. Can't do it. So what I teach is, how do you build that up to become elite, where if you define mindset, it means that it's one's ability to control their thinking, their thoughts, and their behaviors when things aren't going well. And so that's the part where I start to give people tangible things to work through. So when that time comes and they went out last night and had a few drinks, it's raining, it's 30 degrees, and it's 7 a.m., are you going to meet your partner at the gym because that's the accountability you gave them, but you just hit snooze, hit them with a text and say, can't make it? That's not an elite mindset. How do you push yourself through?
Do you follow Jocko Willink at all?
So I follow a lot of Navy SEALs. One thing that you and I have in common is I see you're a Goggins guy, and I've
Huge
met
Goggins
Goggins.
fan, yeah.
Yeah, I met Goggins twice. Thanks to my wife, she got a VIP pass before he went to speak, and I sat down with him and Marcus Luttrell and Tay Kyle. Of course, Luttrell's the lone survivor and
Yeah.
survivor.
No, that's a tremendous table to be at. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and of course Taya is Chris Kyle's widow, and so Goggins is a guy I've followed for over a decade now, and to your point with Jocko, is all these guys, they're elite, right? And of course we're talking about SEALs, but they've been tested so many times that by the time they hit the ground and hit war, that training they had has been far more superior than what they've ever gone through in war, and they'll tell you that. And so those are the people where, and to your point, right, Ryan, is in order to have an elite mindset, you got to surround yourself with people that have it, right? You got to surround yourself with people that are better than you.
That's one of the things that the current situation, I think even for myself, I found myself, I'm normally like, don't get me wrong, I like to have some beers, but I normally can relegate them to the weekend or maybe call it traditionally appropriate times to imbibe. And I have found myself like random Tuesday, afternoon, or not afternoon, but like evening, I'm popping a beer with dinner, which I would never have done before. And, it's funny as you were talking about surrounding yourself and that kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if like the isolation, because I'm not mixing with people and not mixing with people that are successful or driving themselves, if that isn't starting to leak into my own mindset a little bit.
Yeah, right. This quarantine scenario for me, I've taken the things that now that I teach back that at one point people have taught to me and I've absorbed it. I've really utilized this time to dig in a little deeper. I'm doing workouts twice a day. I'm staying tight on nutrition because it's during times like this where you can fall into a trap, right? You're home, there is food in the cupboard, you're lazy, you can't go anywhere, you got some drinks in the fridge. So this is a time where you absolutely test your mindset. And once you start to build that momentum, then that's when you can start rolling. I tell people all the time that they'll say, how do you stay so committed? Well, you'll find with me, right? It's everything that I say or I do, I define it. Because if you don't define it, you don't know what it is. And to me, commitment is staying loyal to what you say you would do long after the mood that you said it in has left you. And if you can replay that in your head, right? All those times you're like, I'm going to work out for 60 straight days, but it's day 12 and it's a struggle. That's where you go back to commitment. So what I do every day is I go down to my gym. That quote is up there. I printed it out, framed it, and then I write today's quote. And whatever I'm feeling that day, I'm feeling great? Do I feel part of the 1%? I'm going to do everything that 99% of other people won't do today. That's great. Am I struggling today? Do I have to give a mindset quote? Maybe I'll throw that up there. But it just kind of starts my workout off and it gets me revved up to go.
How do you, or how do you recommend for people, so you find yourself off the path, right? You've made a commitment to yourself and it's 5 days later and you're mowing a bag of chips with a beer on a Thursday going, this isn't where I was supposed to be. Like, what are some tools or tactics that you have for kind of getting back onto the path once you've fallen off of it?
Right. Well, number one is people need to understand you don't need to be perfect. I talk about striving for excellence. And again, excellence is doing a common thing in an uncommon manner. So just a quick side note, right? Like Tiger Woods, he achieved excellence. He golfs. Most of us like to golf and we do it in a common way. He golfs in an uncommon manner, right? Lindsey Vonn skis. A lot of us ski in the Northeast, but she does it in an uncommon manner. So there's excellence. So I always strive for excellence versus perfection. Now, to your point, a lot of people feel, I had the bag of chips, I had a couple glasses of wine, whatever it is, and then the next day they don't work out because they already feel bad about themselves. That's the absolute last thing you want to do. You can have a bag of chips. You can have a cheat day. The key is get back on the horse the next day and let's go. Right? So people think, well, I had a couple days in a row, now I'm struggling, and all of a sudden they fall off the wagon. I always had a rule, and I heard it from somewhere, is never go 3 days without working out. So that's what I do. And I know that if I go 3 days and maybe I'm struggling, maybe I'm under the weather, that fourth day, I'm going to do something to dig back in. So I would say that's number one, is don't let it go too long and get yourself back in the routine. And number two, if you fall off for a minute, that's okay. If you don't feel like getting back in, call somebody and say, hey, need your help today. Meet me at the gym. Meet me at the grocery store. I need to buy healthy food and get back on track. So that's it. And I want to add one more to that, is it's important that people understand that they can't allow the day to run them. Most people's feet hit the ground, and all of a sudden it's like, here's my to-do list. I have to go to my work 8 to 5, 9 to 5. I come home, I've got kids, I got to feed them, put them to bed. Now it's 7 o'clock at night. I'm tired. I'm going to have the beer. That's the day running them. What I do is I put together a 168 sheet that someone gave me, right? And I basically, there's 168 hours in a week, and I fill out every slot, every minute of my week. Matter of fact, I just passed it on to some of the Bentley students. I spoke there a couple weeks ago, and they asked me for it because I spoke about it. And basically what it does is it starts to show you what you're doing in your day, and you'll find when you start using it, you're like, wow, I wasted a lot of time, right? So you don't use it for the rest of your life, but it gives you a chance to get into that routine, because routines can be great, but routines can be bad too.
Yeah. It's, you probably read Atomic Habits by James Clear. You ever read that?
No, actually I haven't. So
that's a real good book to read. So James Clear is, to be honest with you, I don't even know what his background is. I know it's in some sort of psychology or whatever, but he writes about habits. And one of the things that he talks about is habit stacking, which is an idea that basically, if you want this habit, some people listening have my hand up here. If you want one habit to be successful, then the only way to make sure that you do this habit on a regular basis is to stack other good habits on top of it. Because if you try to have a good habit with bad habits stacked on top of it, you're never going to get there. So like how what things can you package together? I've always that idea, and then that idea of you're saying planning out your day. I'm thinking to myself, geez, that's the only way to get to where you want to be, is to know, what do I have coming next? Because if next is an hour of nothing time, that's where, like you said, the day starts to own you, because there's no plan. All your little demons start telling you, oh man, go pop a beer. It's noon, 5 o'clock somewhere, bro. Like go do it.
Yeah, right. To that point, what I do, and I do this in the right way, is I use people, meaning that I try to steal from everyone, right? What's the acronym? CASE, copy and steal everything. And I hired a rep one time in the pharmaceutical world. And, I knew he interviewed well. We brought him on board, and I asked him to do a business plan. And so I think the year was like 2015. And so he comes back and he sits down. I said, all right, let me take a look at your plan. He said, which one? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, this year or next year? It was the first time in my career I've ever had a rep do that. I said, you put a plan together for next year? He goes, yeah. If I'm going to put money on the table and food on the table for my family, I'm not planning for 1 year. I'm going to plan out the next year. And then when next year starts, I'm planning the next year. And I'm thinking ahead, so I know if I'm here right now, where do I need to be in order to make money, drive business, be successful? And that stuck with me, because now I plan everything. And it's not, don't need to be rigid, but at least start to forward think, so you know that you're prepared in order to reach your goals.
That has always been a weakness of mine. I love to work. And I feel like I'm always going, and like those, to slow down for a bit, take a breath and plan. Like there's something inside me that feels like I'm like wasting time, because it's like, oh, I could be doing a video or reaching out to a client or, working on some BS work that I got to get through so I can get back to these other things. And I just never take that time, or I don't take enough time planning. So if there's people listening who are like me, who have like that sense of like slowing down to plan is a waste of time, how do you work through that with somebody?
Yeah, well, first of all, it goes back to mindset. As I listen to you speak, you feel like you're slowing down, right? Where you want to get stuff out there and you want to keep going forward. But planning, you're moving yourself forward. And what you're doing is you're starting to embed all these good habits by sitting down, giving yourself some structure, and you'll find that the more you plan, the more you're prepared for everything that life throws at you. So I hear you. I sometimes struggle with the fact that, again, I mentioned earlier I had this talk at Bentley. Now it was an hour talk, bunch of young students that are looking to get into sales after their junior and senior years. Obviously, I spent so much time, Ryan, planning my slide deck. They probably didn't even look at it. They were watching me on video. But I'll tell you what, I knew that slide deck cold, and I never have to review it again because I put it to memory. And now if anyone in that particular kind of realm, if any other university comes at me and says, hey, I want you to speak tomorrow on effective selling, it's already up here.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you're slowing down the plan. You're speeding your process up, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I completely agree. And what's funny is in certain aspects of my life, I'm right with you, especially because, I've also been a speaker in the insurance industry for a long time. I mean, a decade or more.
Yep.
And I one time was giving a presentation in Ohio, 200 people. I am literally a minute. Like the guy just gave me like the, you're up next signal, right. And like blue smoke goes up out of the whole, all the stuff, the sound, the back screen goes off, everything. There's nothing. I got nothing. I got no mic. So the guy comes running up and I see the guy scrambling and he comes up and he goes, just give us like 2 or 3 minutes. And I said, okay. So, I just addressed the audience. I said, hey, you might have heard that popping sound. Like we got some technical difficulties. And everyone kind of looks around and after about, it's probably getting close to 5 minutes, I can tell the audience is getting rammy, right? So because now we're over and it's a conference and they're already starting to think like, this one's done. And I don't want them to walk out.
Right.
So I just said, screw it. And I walked out in front, walked into the middle. I said, hey, can everyone kind of turn so I'm in the middle here so you can hear me?
Right.
And I went no slides. And it was only because I'd spent so much time, like you said, thinking about that thing. But I always ask myself when I have this kind of conversations, like, how come in that part of my life, that to me seems like a no-brainer? Like, you got to do that. But in other parts of my life, I'm like, nope. Like, I'm just going to go. And I don't know why we put these things into buckets, I guess.
My assumption is you've been in insurance a long time, right? Your family is. You enjoy it. It's probably a passion. So when you dug into to memorize or whatever you did to prepare for that, you had it. So this goes back to funny enough, you just brought it back to my third pillar, which is purpose. And it is, if you're not passionate about it, you're probably not going to deliver it in the right manner. So you might be speeding through things that you need to do in life, but you knew your stuff in insurance because that's what you do. But you might rev other things up that you're like, all right, I need to sneak by this. I need to be, just enough to be dangerous. And then you move on, or you don't even know it, right? Even though you felt like you prepared. So what I would say to people is, again, going back to don't letting the day run them. Most people make a to-do list. They need to make a priority list. And every day they wake up, they need to say, okay, here's the 1, 2, or 3 things. I wouldn't get beyond that. Here's what I have to do today. And here's why I have to do it. If it's going to move you forward or move your family or your business forward, then the rest becomes the to-dos. And if you don't check it off that day, it can roll into the next day or next week. But you need to have those priorities up at the top.
So you've probably seen this a lot in your industry, right? Like pharmaceutical sales, it sounds sexy. You meet someone, they're always riding dirty, right? Like, it just seems like a big money, kind of, it just seems sexy to, I think, from someone from the outside. So you've probably run into a lot of people who look at this and they're going, man, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to live that life. Like, I want to go do that. And then, but it's not their purpose, right? It doesn't align with who they actually are. They just have in their head that this is something that I should be doing, or it sounds like something that a person like I want to be should be doing? Like, how do you, like when you're sitting across the table, one, maybe how do you identify that they're kind of misaligned?
Yeah.
And it, I guess, have you had that experience with people, and what do you say to them when you recognize it?
Yeah. I do a lot of interviewing, as you know, just being a leader in the industry. And I open up every single interview. And I say, why are you here? And it's amazing. The question is so vague. And the answers first of all, they can be really short, which is a red flag. And they can be really long and ramble on, which could be a red flag. And what I just look for in people is, when people are passionate. You and I had an off the mic conversation a few days ago, and I asked you about kind of your technique in this forum, and you said, I kind of listen to where my, the guest, where they're passionate, and I roll with that. Well, there you go, right? So you can tell where people are passionate because their voice raises, the energy comes out. And so I look to see, why do you want to come to Siemens Medical? Why do you want to work with Todd Cetnar and Cetnar Consulting? And you'll find that their answers are very telling. They're either checking a box, or someone told them to do it, or they think they should do it. But if they don't know the why behind it, it's not going to be sustainable. And so those are kind of the questions that I'm asking to make sure I'm pulling out. Is this coming from their heart, or is this just in their head?
So when I'm thinking about an opportunity and trying to align that opportunity with my purpose or my passion or whatever is going to be that really, I see this as like the motor, right? I mean, I don't know that I would be interested if you would describe it the same way, but this is the thing that keeps you going when you haven't seen the sun for 3 months,
right,
and the sales aren't rolling in the way you want. Like this is the thing that keeps you going. So how do you start to figure that out? Like when you're coaching someone or you're talking to a group that is struggling with this, like how do you start to pull this out of people? Like what tools do you have for them?
Yeah, you really got to dig in a little bit. First of all, you got to talk to them. What's your professional goals and what's your personal goals? And sometimes they don't always have to align, but usually they're intertwined. I might say to someone, "Hey, what motivates you?" And there's a lot of things, right? You can say money, recognition, awards, promotion. There's a lot of things. So now I dig into what's that inspiration behind having them drive something home. Okay. And once you figure that out, you need to tailor your leadership towards them. And now we're getting into what's called the situational leadership model. So some people need coaching and mentoring. Some people need, okay, I'm going to delegate this to you. I'm going to give you the rope and the green light. Go take care of this. You go be a leader. And so that's where you start to really dive into each individual person. It's like coaching a basketball team, right? My background, every player is different. Some player might like the tough love. You might have to hold another player's hand. Everyone is different, but that's leadership. And so I kind of start to dig in there. Another tool I use is on my website. If you go to CetnarLeadership.com, you can sign up for I call it the Elite Club, which is essentially a monthly newsletter. And I send it out the 15th of every month. And so the other day when I sent it out, I talk about having a maniacal self-belief. Some people want to do things and they don't understand that they can do it if they put their mind to it. And so what I did is I said, take out a Post-it note and write down all the wins you've ever had in your life. If you go do that right now, first of all, it'll take you a few hours and you'd be shocked at how many things, big or small, where you're like, wow, I did this, I did that, I won at this, I got this promotion. Then you start to realize, man, I'm pretty good at, you pull these themes out and you're like, I'm pretty good at these couple, 3 things. This is what I'm going to drive home, or this is what I want to do in life. And that's kind of how I found Cetnar Leadership, is because I felt so fired up to do presentations and to serve others and to give back and talk about the elites. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, and for those you guys listening or watching, that's Cetnar Leadership.com. So you can check that out and make sure you subscribe, and we'll have it linked up too in the show notes. So so how does mindset fit into purpose? Like those two, I guess I'm being very selfish, but those are the two that are just really intrigue me because because maybe I'm like everyone, maybe I'm not, but I just struggle at times. Like I'll say right now during COVID and launching my agency, right? I'm 4 months into my agency. I don't know that I've ever worked harder and performed at a higher level at business than I am right now. I don't know that I have performed as poorly in terms of sleep, diet, exercise, probably in half a decade. I don't know that I've performed as poorly in those sides. Like, and really just kind of like, I don't want to say work-life balance because I don't believe in it, but like that, having a healthy delineation between work and life. Like, it just feels, it's like in some parts of my day, I'm like, wow, I am dialed in. In other parts of my day, I'm like, I am just making ridiculous decisions as if it's not even me. And how do you coordinate those two things? Because you don't want them to, I want to get the stuff that's going good to do more. I want that the other side to be good too. And I feel like I'm struggling with that. And I think a lot of people do, right? Like you almost waste all your willpower over here, and then you don't have willpower over here. That's the way it feels. And I'm trying to solve that problem.
I'm with you with the whole, that old adage of, work-life balance. Like I never quite understood that. What I will tell you is, and that's a big discussion you just opened up, but what I can tell you is, balance is good, but it's not going to be equal, right? So if you're struggling right now with, let's say, the personal side of, I need to eat healthier, or I need to work out, but I'm thriving over here in my business, I'm dialed in on what I'm doing. Well, number one is, the issues. That's step number one, right? And number two is, this goes back to that 168 sheet is, well, let's see what your day looks like. I have my clients that I work one-on-one with. We do this every week. And I say, show me your week last week. And you can see how unbalanced they are and how you can make a couple minor moves here, right, in my left hand to move it over here. And it might be like day-to-day things. So what I would say to you or to the listeners where they feel unbalanced is, your mindset and your purpose, they can go hand in hand, but I don't think that way. Your purpose is two things. You're going to find your purpose on, what do you love to do? And does it come easily to you? Right? If you have those two things, you're going to find your purpose. And then your mindset, like we talked about at the beginning, is take your purpose, and it's going to be hard work if you want to be really, really good at that. There's an example, if you've heard of, I'm aging myself, I think you and I are similar, but Marie Callender, she made pies, and you find them in the frozen food section. And I saw a Steve Harvey clip once where he talked about, you want to find your purpose? Let's take Marie Callender. She worked in this restaurant, and it was going to close because it wasn't doing very well. And she said to the owner, let me just bring in a pie. And the owner's like, okay, you can bring in a pie, but we're closing down. You need to find a new job. So she goes home, bakes a pie, brings it in. She sold it piece by piece, 8 pieces. It was like 5 minutes. Word spread. All of a sudden, she's making more pies. The restaurant stays open. She finally gets enough money to get a home oven in her house. And now Marie Callender is known for making pies. So the analogy here is, if you're great at making pies, go make pies, right? So this goes back to purpose is, when I get ready to put a slide deck together for Bentley University or a high school banquet I was doing, or a finance company I just spoke to, I get all juiced up. So I know this is what I ultimately want to do, right? Not that I don't love what I do in the med device world, but I think in the end, this would be the direction I'd love to go if I can.
Yeah. I can tell, I can just tell by the way that you lean into the answer. So I want to be respectful of your time and of the audience's time, but I have one more question for you. And just kind of leveraging all your experiences and now, just as you're diving into this idea of leadership, like you described situational leadership, which I think is tremendous. And I completely and wholeheartedly agree with it. I think the days of like the Jack Welch, do what I say, conform to my methodology. Hopefully those are gone. Although I personally respond to tough love very well. I was always that player on the football team or whatever that needed to be like thrown up against the fence to like shake my head loose. And I was completely like, I was almost like
Bobby Knight days.
Yeah. But, yeah, I guess my question is like, where do you see like leadership going, especially in this environment, which, some version of this is going to be around for a while. Like, how does leadership transform? How do you continue to be an elite leader, an elite performer, when this is as close a connection as you can have?
Yeah. Couple things. One is adaptability, right? Flexibility. And also you need to be a consistent learner. I just mentioned Bobby Knight. So here's the analogy. I tell people all the time. Bobby Knight, I know he's older now, but Bobby Knight isn't coaching anymore and hasn't coached in a long time because he didn't adapt to the way times have changed and to his players. Mike Krzyzewski has maybe done it the best, and he's still winning championships. He's still at the top of the game because he's understood, okay, this is a new breed of players, a new breed of young kids, and this is how I need to do it now versus the way I coached Duke in 1988, right? So I think you need to adapt, and I think it's more about understanding. I mentioned the situational leadership model. It's understanding that everybody's different, everyone's unique, and leadership these days is partnership.
Yeah.
It's even in 2007, when I first started as a district manager in the med device or pharmaceutical world, whatever I said was gold. This is what you guys got to do. We need it done by this time. And it was done. And now I could say that right now. And I have 3 VPs that report to me and no one can send anything in. And I'll say, what the heck is going on? But what I realize is there's not that fear anymore, right? Quote unquote fear of authority. It's more of like, if they think they're good at their job and they can't be replaced, then they're gonna run on their own schedule, and I need to partner with them in order to get the best out of them.
Yeah, I love that. I think I think that I feel like there's still a place for that. There are still moments. I shouldn't say a place. There are moments where you have to rise up, or I don't know why I always, this is my wife and I, like, hump up. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta establish your authority in that space, but it can't be your default position anymore. It just can't be. It's not how we operate in the world. And like you said, it's not how high performers don't respond to that anymore. And I actually don't know if you can even get the most out of somebody if that's your default position. You might be able to get performance, but not as much as you could possibly get. I feel like you're leaving something on the table. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess I'll close with this is you can get a sense of how they want to be coached. I've got a young leader right now under my wing, and he'll say to me, right when we get out of a call or talk to a customer, hey, how'd I do? And I'll give him feedback. He'll go, no, be hard on me. Like, what do I need to get better at? I am like, okay, this guy wants coaching. He wants feedback. Even if it's constructive, I know he can handle it. Now, I have another individual where, you start getting tough on them and you can see them peel back a little bit. And so I use the string analogy. Anytime I inherit a team, or maybe I'm in a new role, I get up in front of everyone and I have a string. And I say, the one way I'm not going to lead is if you put a string on a table and you start with your finger on it and it's behind the string and you start to go forward, what happens? The string starts to just crumble like a shoelace. It just kind of crumbles up. But if you put your finger on the other side of the string and you start to pull it versus push it, what does the string do? It follows you, right? So that's the difference between leading without authority. It's not about title. It's not about role. It's not about seniority, but it's about partnering with the people that are underneath you and bringing them along versus trying to push them to where you want them to go.
Yeah, I love that, man. So, dude, this has been tremendous. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your expertise with me and with the audience. These podcasts are almost like free consulting for me, so I love it. But for the audience as well. So we gave people the URL, Cetnar Leadership, but like, where else can they connect with you if they want to learn more and just start to get into your ecosystem a little bit?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, Ryan, for having me. I appreciate the time. So Cetnar Leadership is a great place to really go. It's got the whole kind of mix of how to see what I'm doing out there. I've got all the links to my YouTube channel, all my social media pages, which include Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So you can kind of navigate from there. Would love to see people sign up for that elite club, which is essentially the newsletter, as I mentioned, because I do give some freebies out. I actually gave the 168 sheet out a few months ago. And of course, on the website, you can sign up for 3 different things that I do. Either one-on-one coaching, which we typically do weekly, keynote speaking for a lot of the organizations and executives, and team consulting, which usually navigates towards the sports teams.
Awesome. Dude, I wish you nothing but the best. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep pushing. And maybe once this craziness breaks up and we're actually allowed to share space, we can grab a cup of coffee or something, because this has been great.
Sounds good, Ryan. Thank you.
All right, man. Hey, be good.
All right. Thanks.